Okay, it is COMP305, fall 2016. It's week 1, part 1 of our broadcast. And we're here talking about programming 1. And we're live. For those people who've never seen the YouTube channel or haven't got to it yet, I do broadcast live. So if people maybe didn't make it this morning for their first class, that's okay. If we have full classes, both these classes are supposed to be pretty much full, right? So if they're not here, I know some people are expecting me to broadcast. This is the time frame that I'm broadcasting. Usually around 1. We start a little late today, but between 1 and 5, I'll be broadcasting live. We'll take several breaks because it's long, 4 hours, right, all at once. The name of the game is Unity. We're going to be using Unity, but we're going to use a lot of other tools. Here's the first tool you need for today, Slack, right? I'm going to bring up another little window here. So please download. We're going to be talking about tool sets you need. This is the one tool that I ask you all to get. If I go to slack.com, right? I have a Slack channel that I've created, right, for this course, COMP305 F2016. So it's COMP305-F2016. If you've never signed up to Slack before, that's okay, right? You can see that there's been some discussion this morning. I have 18 members so far on this, on today. But I'd like to get everybody in, right? So when you sign up for Slack, I mean, again, some people have put up some of their own images and so on. I highly recommend you do your own image so we know who is who, like who is the person that you're talking to. How do you sign up for Slack? And I think it's, when I say sign up for Slack, the best way to get it is to download the Slack app. This is the best way first. So, and if the machine in front of you, if you're using like a school machine, it should already have the Slack app in play, right? So all you have to do is, if you don't have it, you can download Slack. And you can click on download Slack here in Google, Chrome, right? And when you do that, you can download it for both the Mac. I think Mac, Windows, and Linux is available for you, right? Click on download, and when you download, it'll ask you to join a team, right? The team you want to join is, again, COMP305 F2016. That's the for this semester, right? And when you're done, it should look like something like this, COMP305 F2016. Now, because you don't have a password for the team, you have to, first of all, you have to use a couple things to note. You have to use your my.centennialcollege.ca email to sign up, okay? So if you're trying to use a Gmail account or something like that, it's not going to work. It's only my.centennialcollege.ca. That's the first thing. Second, there is no password, so ask for a magic link, okay? So if I ask you for a magic link or password, do one of those. Get a magic link. It'll email you with your magic link. You click on the magic link. It'll ask you what team you're going to join, and then from there, when you do that, and I can't show you this because I'm already joined, right? But let's suppose that I have another ID that I want to use. How do I join another team, right? So if I go to Slack, so here's my. Let's go into Slack for a second. So Slack. And if I go to your teams, I can see that there's several teams. If I want to join another team, I'm going to sign into another team. It's going to ask me for my team name, right? So for example, in your case, you put in something like COMP305-F2016 and then click continue. I'm already part of that team, so it won't work for me, right? But for you, you'd have to click continue. And then it's going to ask you for your password or your email. The email you're going to put in there is the email for Centennial. So in my case, it's t@my.centennialcollege.ca, right? And then when it asks you for a password, don't put a password because you don't have a password yet. Get your magic link, right? And the magic link, right, is going to be it's going to give you access to your team. And then from there, you can set up your username and password for the team. Okay? When you add yourself onto your Slack app, right, you don't need to, like for example, I'm going to add a team to my Slack app here. So I've downloaded my Slack app, right, here on Mac or Windows. If I click onto it, it's going to say, hey, what team are you going to join? It looks almost identical, right? Well, what you don't want to do is get a magic link again the second time around. So one is your online stuff in Slack, and the other one is the actual Slack app. Now, the Slack app, you can have it for your desktop, and I really recommend you get it for mobile, right? Why? Because if you want to text me a question, right, I got my Slack app happening, right? You can send me a Slack message, and then I'm going to get it instantly. pretty much instantly, right? And this is a great way of us communicating together, like back and forth, right? As opposed to, as opposed to what we've been doing, in the past, which is you're going to send me an email and it's going to take me time to, to respond to you. Okay, so best way to do it. The other thing is, great thing about Slack is you can collaborate with others. If you see, like, I got Eddie just joined and Alex and Wynell, right? So they just joined in, right? So you've got 3 people that just joined in, right? And if I want to, talk to one of my buddies, so Wynell, here you go. I'm going to talk to you directly. I can actually click on Wynell's name and go direct messages, and I can send them a hello, right, directly, right? So it'll send a direct message to someone. So there's direct messages. You'll get it right away, pretty much, or within a second or so. That's the really cool thing. That's number one. And the second reason why we want to do this is because I have a few channels, right? I have my general channel. This is where I make all the announcements and stuff for Slack, for the team, for COMP305, right? I have developer, where if you want to put some information on, you can join this channel if you want. If you want to put things like any kind of code examples or samples for modeling examples that we're going to put in on Blender and so on, or Unity, you can drag them in here. Random, if you got random thoughts, like Pedro went a little crazy in terms of some of the stuff he did. They put some random thoughts in here. You can totally do that kind of stuff. It's totally cool. This is where you do all your random thoughts. Please don't do it on a general channel. General is just for us to communicate announcements and stuff like that. And when we want to communicate really important stuff together, okay? Or if we want to solve problems, we do it here. We do it here on general, okay? So a couple of channels. You can also create your own. If you really want to, create your own channel as part of the team, you can certainly do that. All right. So please join Slack. Is it required? I mean, I can't really make it required. It's not really part of or Centennial, but I'm going to ask you to do it. I think it's a great tool for us to communicate with, and most companies use it these days as a communication and collaboration tool. All right, so COMP305, right? If you're with me on COMP229, you have the advantage of already having Slack, so you're going to have me on both channels, and you'll have access to both teams, right? Again, all you need to do is sign in with my.centennialcollege.ca, all right? If you're having a problem with that at the break, I love my people call me when I'm working. On the break that we'll take, if you have a problem signing into Slack or having a problem connecting or whatever, let me know and I'll help you out. But again, I highly recommend download it as an app on your desktop, and you should bring in your own laptop for this course if you can. If you don't have a laptop, it's okay. The machine in front of you has everything outfitted that you need, right? But from a control perspective, you're better off having your own laptop so you can manage your system. On that, right? Today we're going to be talking about tools, right? And I'm also going to tell you what book we're going to be using for the course and a little bit about what's on the agenda. By next week, I'm going to update the outline. So you're going to have everything you need, right, to know when our assignments are going to be doing everything else. Next week, you're going to get your first assignment, which is going to be a side scroller that we're going to build over the next couple weeks. The first part of the course is all going to be 2D. So we're going to do 2D in the first half. For people who have been in my COMP397 course, even if you did half of it, Janelle, right? It's okay, right? Because some of the stuff you did in that course, you can translate and port over to Unity, no problem, right? And I fully expect you to do so, right? So the first half is going to be 2D. The second half is going to be 3D in this course. We're going to try and do it first half, second half. And the reason for that is there's just so much to talk about with 2D and 3D. I can't possibly give you everything in one half of the course. Remember, this is an intro course, and it ties into, if you're a gaming student, and I know I've got a couple gaming students in the class, right? If you're a gaming student, it ties into game programming 2. There's another part to this course, where they do things like networking, multiplayer games, those kind of things. We won't be handling multiplayer games in this course, just because of it from a time perspective, and I apologize for that. You'll have to wait till game programming 2, right? But you will get kind of a rudimentary idea of how to model stuff in this course, right? And also how to create simple games with Unity. And when we say simple games, I'm talking about prototypes, because we can't make full games, so to speak, only because we just don't have time. Let's talk about our tool sets, and then I'll talk in detail about more of what we're going to be doing from week to week. All right, so we talked about Slack. Slack is one of the tool sets I want you to get. If you don't have access to GitHub, or if you've never had a GitHub, who doesn't have a GitHub account? If you don't have a GitHub account, get one, because I'm going to share everything with you on GitHub. Example, all of my code examples are going to be up on GitHub. So GitHub, if I go to github.com, I'm signed in, so this is me. But normally what you do is when you get into GitHub, I'm going to go into incognito for a second. Here we go. You're going to see something like this, right? Sign in, sign up. And what GitHub is a cloud provider where we can actually place our code samples, right? And there's 3 reasons why I want to use GitHub. One of them is as a backup, right? So let's say, he didn't bring his laptop today, right? He has a super powered laptop at home. It's like a gaming laptop, but he doesn't want to bring it around, and he wants to work at home, but he also wants to port his code over here on the computer. So, or maybe he doesn't have a laptop. He has a really cool, super cool machine at home that has like, a liquid cooled processor and some amazing gaming machine or whatever. He doesn't want to port that thing with him because he'd have to drag it on some kind of cart, right? It's massive, right? So he leaves it at home and he puts his code up on GitHub, and then when he comes to class, he downloads from GitHub and he has his stuff. So backup is a great reason why we use GitHub. Second reason, collaboration, right? I want to share my code with class. So I'm putting my code up on GitHub. Everyone can see my code, right? That's a really good reason. And the third reason is version control. That's actually really what it's for, revision control, if you will. So let's say, as an example, and I've talked about this before in other classes, you're working on an app, and then it breaks. And you're like, damn it, I don't know what I did. What did I do to break my app? I don't know, right? And it's hard. Sometimes it takes you like a long time to figure it out, right? Something that you did, it broke your app. Well, the great thing about GitHub is it keeps track of all your snapshots that we call commits on GitHub, right? That as a snapshot of your files in the current state that you that kind of save them, right? So I kind of create snapshots of my application at different times, and I call them commits, right? And what I can do is I can step back and look at all my changes from one commit or snapshot to the other. So I can look at the revisions that I've made as I've developed my code or my application. So hence revision control. That's what it does. So it's used for revision control, collaboration. Those are the 3 reasons, and backup. I'm going to ask you this question again on a test at some point. Next week we're going to have a little quiz. Quizzes in this course and going forward in my courses are all going to be take home. So you're going to take the quiz, you can take it home. It's going to be due the same day, right? I'm going to have probably 5 quizzes in this course, right? I'm going to give it to you in the morning, so you're going to have access to it the whole day from 9 until midnight, right? And anytime during that time frame, you take it home. It's going to be 5 to 6 questions. You do your quiz for 2%, right? It's fully open book, right? And you're going to have access to all your tools. And some people are going to say, "Oh man, that's like so easy. I can get like 2% for nothing." There are going to be people for whatever reason that aren't going to finish their quiz. They're going to get 0. There's no, I can't do it. I don't have time. I'm working. You have like pretty much 24 hours almost to do your quiz, right? Or the whole day, right? There's got to be 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour throughout your day if you really take your time to do your quiz. And I'm going to give you half an hour to do every one of your quizzes. So 30 minutes to do like 10 questions, right? And it's going to be worth 2% of your final grade. And you can do it anytime you want. Some people want to say, "Well, what if I cheat? What if I, Winnell, he's awesome. He knows everything, right? And I'm going to go to him, sit next to him, and we're going to do our quizzes together," right? You can try that, and maybe you'll succeed. But really, at the end of the day, you're just going to... for me, the good thing is that it's gone through your brain a couple times, right? Whether you cheat or not, right? You're going to read the stuff, and it's going to be in a random order anyway. Might have the same questions, but I might take them from a pool of other questions, and so it's not going to be super easy. I might have a pool of 20 questions, but I'm only asking you 10 of them, right? So each of the quizzes is going to be slightly different. So, I mean, it's your quiz to do. Is it going to be super difficult? No, it will not be super difficult. And you're going to have access to all your tools anyway. Take it home and do it for 2%. You can't go wrong. Why am I doing quizzes? Because at the end, if I do 10 quizzes, that's 20% or 10%, right? 5 quizzes, 10%, plus 5 labs that I'm going to give you throughout the course, another 10%. That's 20% that I don't have to do on an exam, right? Because exams can be pretty crazy, right? Like you get stressed out by doing an exam. It's worth like 25% of your course, and you might be doing great in the course. You did fantastic with the assignments, and then I don't want that. So I'm going to make the exam so it's like 15% max, and then you have all these quizzes and everything else to bump up your mark. So that's going to be the structure of things. You're going to have 3 assignments right? So the first assignment's going to be worth 10% or 15%. It's going to be building your, for people who've gone my COMP397, my web game programming, Janelle, right? You've done Mail Pilot, the side scroller, we're going to do it again, right? So that's the first one. It's going to be a 2D side scrolling game, right? The second game is going to be a platformer, a 2D platformer that you're going to build with physics, right? And then we're going to build a 3D first-person perspective game, right? Now, these are all individual games that you're going to make on your own, okay? The last one you're going to build is a project. So it's going to be three assignments in a project. The project is going to be something where you can work with somebody else. You can pick any one of the other assignments you made. So assignment 1, which is your side scroller, assignment 2, which is your platformer, or assignment 3, which is your first-person perspective, as a kickoff point to make your final project. And your final project is going to have 3 levels, a main menu, an instruction screen, and a game over screen. Same sample stuff that we did before. Now you might be laughing because you're like, if you did my COMP397 course, you're like, man, I did all this already. Yeah, let's do it in Unity, right? And the great thing about Unity is it allows you to do some really cool things, right? So lots of stuff to cover. There's going to be teamwork involved, right? Some people may not like to work with each other. And if you really press me and you're like, Tom, I don't want to work with anybody, it's up to you. I can't cut down on your responsibilities, however. The same criteria is going to be for you if you're alone is the same as you're going to have when you're in a team, right? Which makes it really challenging for you because I'm going to build it out for teams of 2 to 3. Thinking that you can get off by doing it on your own, maybe you can, maybe you're that good. But I highly recommend partnering with somebody that you know you can work with. It doesn't have to be from this section. You can do it from the morning section as well, right? It doesn't matter because I'm going to combine. The reason why I haven't put anything up on eCentennial right now is going to combine both sections later on today. And then when I do communications or add an assignment or whatever, both sections will share the same assignment. It won't be the different assignment. And you can combine with other people from other sections. That's why I want to do it that way. Okay? So we got lots of people. Not everyone has signed up or come into the course today. Again, I've got 30 members so far, so probably about not less than half of the people that are supposed to be here, right? Remember, there's like both these courses are full. So please, if you're watching remotely, sign up for Slack. This is the best way to ask questions, especially if you're remote and you're watching the broadcast. Some people will decide to watch the broadcast and they use my YouTube videos as an excuse not to come in, right? I'm okay with that. If you want to stay home and learn that way, if that's the best way you want to learn, it's okay, right? You can do the quizzes at home, remember? So quizzes and labs, you can totally do at home. Everything's fine, right? The only time you really have to be here 100% is for the midterm test, right? Which is happening on the 7th week. And then for the final presentation, I'm going to ask you all to come in because there is no final exam in this course. I've removed it, right? So no final exam. Yeah.
Can we ask questions during the week?
Of course. That's why we're doing Slack, right? So you can shoot me a question saying, hey, I was working on this thing, and I can't do it, and how do I do this kind of stuff? It's really up to you. I'm not going to force you to participate. I highly recommend that you participate and come in. I think there's some really cool questions I can answer live, and it'll be much easier for us to have a conversation than for me to send you a message back and forth. Slack, the great thing about Slack is I can actually have a phone call with you on Slack. Like actually have, it does voice over IP too, right? So there's some really cool communication opportunities with us if you set it up on your smartphone. If I don't answer you on Slack, there's 2 reasons why. If it's after 10 p.m., can't. Or after actually sometime around 9:30, 10 p.m., I'm putting my children down, that kind of thing. I'm probably not going to answer you. If I'm eating food, I'm having dinner with my wife, not going to answer you, right? I'm just putting it out there. So I'm going to get your message, right? And it's going to be live, and I'll answer it. I'll get to it as soon as I can, right? I don't care 24/7. I'll do it, right? After hours, it's for everybody. It's do not disturb, so you won't get anything after 10 o'clock from me either, right? I think I'll start. I usually get up fairly early, so anytime after 5 o'clock in the morning, chances are I'm going to be able to get your messages, even though they might say that I'm on do not disturb mode. I'll probably still see them, right? I'll try to answer them as best as I can, like I said. But there's going to be times when I'm driving, eating, other things I'm doing that I can't answer, right? Yeah, Yeah, I need to do all these things. Right? I actually have to, where I cannot answer. So I'm making myself available throughout the time. I don't have standard office hours, right? If you need to see me during the week, I am here Saturday all day, right? Which I'm teaching all day with you guys. I'm also here a Wednesday evening, right? And I'm available through like remote access through, for example, we can do a Hangouts on Air or a Hangouts. I can do a kind of a, or if you want Skype, if you're really a Skype person anymore. But if you want to do that, we can do that too. If you really need to, if it's desperate and we need to meet together in an office or something, I'll make my time. I'll give you my hours. We'll look at our schedules and arrange a time where I can kind of meet with you directly, okay? And I don't mind doing those kind of things in order for us to solve problems, okay? That's what I want to do with you. But the Slack tool, the reason why I'm giving it to you is because you can like hit me on a Saturday or on a Sunday or whatever. Or maybe I'm projecting like this. I'm broadcasting, and you have a question you want to ask me, and I'm going to get my Slack message. So during a break, like I won't do it today because you guys just signed up today, but on a break, I might look at the Slack and say, the Slack message and say, oh, look, Andre asked me a question. He's viewing it remotely today, as an example, and I'm going to answer. Here's the question. So what are the questions do I have? Because I'm not saying it's a remote class. This isn't an online class. It's a class that we're here in school, and we've got the tools to do what you want to do. But what if you can't make it that day, right? Or what if it's really cold and rainy, and you want to stay home, and you get really comfortable. You have a great environment, learning environment from home. I'm not going to stop you, right? But I highly recommend you do come in to ask me your questions. You can come in any time of the day, from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. Doesn't matter when you come in for your sections. So if you want to come in an early class next time, or the late class, or you want to come in at 2 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock, I'm not going to cry, all right? Because remember, we're recording everything anyway, right? So I'm recording the class. You can always view it anytime you want, and you can always watch it live. Questions around that stuff, communication and kind of stuff. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people, I got some comments back. I kind of mentioned this last time, which is like, Tom, your recordings are like 3 hours or 4 hours. I can't be bothered going through all your entire recordings, like, kind of thing. What was that?
That's how long the class is.
That's what it is. But I can't go through your recordings. Like it's too difficult. I've been in your class and I've watched the recordings and I still don't get it. Okay, it's possible that might happen, right? So that's where you call me up and you set up some time with me, and we have a conversation to try and fix this. This, guys and girls, I do not want to make this class, a class where you hate coming to class. That would be really bad, right? The idea for this is it's an intro to gaming, right? So we want to take away a couple things. How do I create a game with Unity? How do I model with the tools that I'm gonna give you, right? And by the way, I'm going to mention this now, and I'll mention it again later. I'm going to provide a bonus of 5 to 10%, depending on how it is, if you make your own models, right? If you make your own assets for the game, right? If you pull assets from other places, right? You're certainly allowed to pull up assets if you're not a designer or graphic artist or whatever. It's totally fine. You can do that. I will not allow any scripts to be pulled out from anywhere. No scripts, right? So you have to make your own scripting for this thing. This is what the class is about. Assets you can grab from anywhere, but I will give you a bonus for making your own. I don't care how much if you spend your time. Now, asset creation takes time, right? And that's why I'm giving you the bonus. It's not something that you can create in an hour sometimes, right? But it means that you're going to be dedicated to making your own assets and everything else, right? So, and it's also going to make your game unique, right? It's not going to be like, your game's not going to look like other games, right? So we're going to be talking about asset creation throughout. I'm going to help you with that part. Part of it is you're going to have to work on your own and try and figure and work on getting your skills up to make your own assets if that's what you want to do. And that means everything. Everything from your graphic assets to your sound assets to your music assets, all that stuff you can make on your own. And if you just got to let me know that I made all this stuff, right? And I want a bonus, Tom, because I know I really worked bloody hard and I want you to pay me for it. I'm going to pay you with marks, right? That's the idea. So if you put your stuff into this, I know this is not your only class, but if you put your stuff into this, I will pay you for it. I will give you your marks for it at the end. Okay, let's talk about the tool sets that you need. So I got GitHub, I got Slack. Those are the two tools definitely that I need. Let's talk about the next tool set, which is, of course, Unity. Let's talk about Unity. We're working with Unity in this course. This is not a Unity course, however, right? We're using Unity for this course, right? But this is not a Unity course. This is a course about game programming. And we're using Unity as a tool to develop prototypes, right? That's what we're doing, right? So how do I get Unity? I'm going to click on Get Unity Now, right? And from there, there's several options. There's the personal option, a personal download, Plus, Pro, Enterprise. Obviously, personal looks free. You know, it's okay. Unless you make more than $100,000, I think it's a good option, right? Because personal basically says that, you know, it's good for anyone who makes, or who's ever going to use their game to make less. Revenue capacity is 100K, okay? That's one thing. If I click on Plus, as an example, you can see that the revenue capacity is still the same. Pro, and so if I click on Learn More, you can see that there's advantages to what you can get with Pro, and so on. There's no capacity for how much money you're going to make, and so on. But it is quite expensive. We do have a Unity license here in class. So if you're someone who wants to just you know, use class, the personal edition as an example, right? And that's fine. You can use a class version, but I highly recommend you download your own version, your own you know, download of Unity, and please download everything. All right, don't download parts of Unity. Don't sit there and go, well, I want to make a Mac build because I'm a Mac person, but I don't want to do PC, right? Or I want to do PC, but I'm not a Mac person, so I don't want to do Mac. Please download it all, because we're going to do different builds across different platforms, especially iOS and Android, right? So download those piece parts so you have them. So later on, if we can get to that part, you won't have to re-download Unity, right? Because it'll be a pain in the ass, right? Now, there's going to be probably updates between now and the end of the semester. Please don't update Unity. Once you download Unity, keep it the same. I'll do the same, I promise, right? Why? Because my version of Unity and your version of Unity might be so different, even if one little download may not work the exact same. There might be a new option, a new tool set that's really cool to use, but that I can't use, right? And I can't evaluate you, right? Speaking about evaluations, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a WebGL build for Unity to build things for the web, right? Why? Because that way I can double click on your index.html and I can see your game, right? So even if you're building a 2D or 3D game, it works with the WebGL build. But warning, it does take time to build and deploy your game, right? It doesn't take, like, you know, 1 second. It takes 5 minutes to do this kind of stuff, for 10 minutes if it's a simple game. Sometimes it'll take as long as an hour, right? So please, if you're making something complex, right, and you're doing a WebGL build, give yourself enough time to deploy, right? I only want your WebGL build on eCentennial. I don't want your entire project, because your entire project will include all your assets, maybe some extra assets that you didn't use in your final game, and everything else. The WebGL build will only include the stuff that you need, right? So that's all I want, just your WebGL build. Also, please do not put up everything up on GitHub. I don't need to have your WebGL build both on GitHub, right, and on eCentennial, right? So eCentennial, just get your WebGL build. We'll talk about how to do that over the next couple weeks when it comes to submission. How do I submit, right? And on GitHub, I want your code, right? So we're going to talk about a gitignore file on GitHub, how to do that. If you're not a GitHub person or a Git person, it's okay. We're going to be talking about Git and GitHub over the next several weeks, right? So you'll be better at it. There is no GitHub integration with Unity. Unity doesn't come with built-in GitHub integration. You can't just go upload to GitHub. Can't do that. One day maybe they'll do it. Right now they don't, right? So you have to do things with command line, all right? Now it's required in this course to put it up on GitHub so I can see your code. That's part of it. Worst case scenario, if you're really nervous about it, right? I highly recommend on eCentennial, you throw up a zip file of your GitHub files anyway. Just try whatever, and I'm telling you this now, and you're like, Tom, I don't understand. Of course I'm going to do it, right? But try and keep your assets low, right? The stuff you put up on GitHub, because we'll see how big it is. The file, the assignment, the project that I put together this morning for this morning's class was like 50 megs, and we did very little with it, right? Games are big. I know in past iterations of this course, the games have been a gig. 2 gigs, right, in terms of all the assets and everything else. It sounds like a lot, and you're like, holy crap, 2 gig. What did you build with 2 gig? Nothing. Like, didn't build a lot, right? Why? Because there's lots of assets, but I didn't use all those assets, right? I had assets that I was using for demonstration purposes, And then when you build it and put it up on GitHub, it's massive. They're massive, sizes, right? So please, whatever you do, don't put your stuff, everything, all your assets up on GitHub. And we'll talk about, there's some strategies around how to do that. All right, so please download and install Unity and install it all. Along with Unity, you are forced to use Visual Studio if you're a PC person. They'll ask you to download and install a Community Edition if you don't have Visual Studio installed. To be preemptive, download and install Visual Studio 2015 Enterprise with Update 3. That's my recommendation. If you're already doing a course with me, you already have that, so you're fine. Please do it in advance. If you're a Mac person and you're not going to use a PC, right, that's fine. You can use MonoDevelop, which comes with Unity, right, which is another scripting, a little scripting editor, right? Or you can use Visual Studio Code, right? So if you're someone who likes to use something lightweight, Visual Studio Code might be the way for you to use scripting in Unity. Now, on that, if you're someone who's a PC person, which most of you are, you want to go to Centennial DreamSpark, which is e5onthehub.com. DreamSpark has been renamed to Microsoft Imagine now, right? And e5onthehub.com, you guys know, all have access to this. If I click on Visual Studio 2015, my recommendation to you is that you download Visual Studio Enterprise with Update 3 if you're doing other courses in this semester. Like, for example, if you're doing COMP309, which is ASP.NET. Or if you're doing, for whatever reason, Programming 3 or something like that. You'd probably want to use Visual Studio 2015 with Update 3, the latest version, right? With Microsoft Imagine license. Okay, so that's what you want to download and install, right? It's the right version. I would avoid the Community Edition. I think there's stuff missing from there. Yes, would it work? Absolutely. If you're only doing this course and then you're graduating, right, and you're not doing any other courses, okay, Community Edition would be fine, right? But if you're doing other courses, it doesn't make any sense. Might as well download this monster right here. Okay. Okay, so that's the second tool. So you need Unity and you need Visual Studio, or if you're not a PC person, you're a Mac person, Visual Studio Code or the MonoDevelop editor that comes bundled with Unity is okay. All right. That's the second tool. We're going to be talking about asset creations. When we make a game, we have a game creation pipeline, right? And in the pipeline, we have blueprints about how to make the game. So some kind of game design blueprint that we're going to make together, or a game design document. We're going to be talking about in this course, right? How to do that. So I'm going to design the game. I'm going to explain how my game is going to look, right? And we might have a lab on just making a game design document. How do I make a game design document? What do I put in the game design document? We're going to have a whole lab on just that, right? So you take it away, and then you kind of put together your game design document with your logo and your table of contents and all that kind of stuff, right? And then there's going to be part of the pipeline is I've got to create my assets. And how do I create my assets? So one of the tools that I use to create assets, of course, is Adobe Fireworks, right? So if I go to adobe.com, unfortunately for us and students and professors, Adobe products are not free. Okay, they're not free. So you've got to pay for them, and they're about 20 bucks a month, even for students, right? Now, you don't need it. You don't need all parts of it, right, for individuals. You can certainly look for, if I click on students, students have prices, like I said before, if you're a student or teacher, it's like 20 bucks US a month, all right? But things that they include are things like Photoshop and other things. I primarily use, in my professional work, Illustrator, and I also use a small package called Fireworks, right? Fireworks is kind of a slimmer version of Photoshop in a way. It does give you a lot of functionality, and that's what I'm going to be using in this course when we do asset creation for 2D. Right? I'll be using Fireworks a lot. You don't have to, though, and there's some really cool free tools you can use as well. If you want to use a free tool, you can use GIMP, right? GIMP is a free open source tool you can download and use, very similar to Photoshop and free, right? You can also, if you're an Illustrator person, you can also download and install Inkscape. That's the next tool that you can use. So Inkscape is kind of a Illustrator option, an optional, something that's open source, that's similar to Illustrator in terms of vector graphics creator, right? That's really cool. So Inkscape and GIMP, two tools that you can definitely use for asset creation, right? But we need to have one of those three, right? Whether it's Fireworks, I'm using Fireworks because it has some really cool features, right? You can use GIMP or Photoshop or even Paint, whatever it is that you're going to have to create your 2D stuff with. Okay, so that's one thing you need. So one set of those tools. On that, in this course, we're also going to be using Blender, right? So please download and install Blender. Today, we are going to be using Blender, and you need to download and install Blender. The current version of Blender is 2.77a, right? If you have the machines in front of you, the lab machines have 2.76, it's okay. They're so similar between one micro patch and another. There's not going to be a lot of variation there. Okay, so 2.77. Please download and install Blender because we're going to be using Blender. And we're going to be talking about the requirements for Blender. There's a whole set of requirements that you need to use. Some other tool sets you need for Blender. If you're someone who doesn't just want to use Blender, and if you're really serious about games, then Maya and 3D Studio Max might be for you, right? So I can't not talk about them. And the best place to get those, of course, is Autodesk. Now, for education, they do offer free tool sets, right? For education, for I think 3 years. So if you go down, if you scroll down to the education free software program, you can see that there's an entertainment creation suite that I recommend, right? And it includes Maya, 3D Studio Max, Motion Builder, and Mudbox. Softimage is being phased out. That's kind of being the functionality for Softimage is being kind of putting it to 3D Studio Max and Maya. They're kind of in there. So Softimage eventually will disappear. But for definitely Maya, 3D Studio Max, and Motion Builder, and Mudbox, those are great tool sets, especially if you can use them as students for free. Highly recommend. Will I be teaching about Maya and 3D Studio Max in this course? No, only because some people will not use those tool sets, and I want to give you Blender. And Maya and 3D Studio Max are a little bit more complex in some ways. So you need almost a course on just how to learn how to use them, right? But we're going to hold on. We're going to talk about how to get those courses later on in this course. Okay, so Blender, and we got some Autodesk products. If you want to do some 3D creation stuff or whatever, those are the two. These are all the creation tool sets, and there's one more, right? And I recommend this as well. Texture Packer is the tool that we use for creating sprite sheets for your game, right? So we're going to create these bitmaps, if you will. Bitmaps are like, we're going to call them sprites, and sprites are going to be, we're going to animate them in your game. You can use sprite sheets to create frame-based animation. You can use sprite sheets to just house all your games together, or all your bitmaps together in one sprite sheet, so you can reduce the size of your assets, right? But in order for you to do that, you need some way of cutting them up. Unity does a pretty good job of doing it on its own, but Texture Packer is an add-on. It's not free. That helps us. Now, the machines in front of you should have Texture Packer pre-installed, right? So check the lab machine. It should be okay. So we've had some problems today with lab machines. It had to reinstall Texture Packer. There was a bit of an issue. It should be working now. If you want to buy Texture Packer, it does cost $55 or something like that. They're not free. There is a version you can download as a trial. I think it's a good thing to try out and see how it works for you. So if I click on download, right, you can certainly download it for Mac, Windows, and Linux, which I'm really happy about now that they allow you to do that. Oh yeah, this is great. Everything just cut out. I'm going to continue doing this, and we'll take a short break. So don't worry about what you don't see. And I apologize for this, but if I unplug and replug, then the stuff that I'm recording is going to go bye-bye, right? So just bear with me while we do this kind of stuff, right? We kind of run into these technical difficulties, right? All right, so we've talked about, we got Adobe products, so I've been thrown for a bit of a loop. Unity, GIMP, Inkscape, Blender, Autodesk products, if you wanted to download those, and Texture Packer. Whew, those are all the tool sets to create my game, Tom. That's crazy, right? Well, no, you don't have to use all that stuff, but you got to pick something that works for you. And the ones that I'm going to ask you to get for sure are Blender and Unity. We're going to be using those today for sure. And I highly recommend something like a Fireworks, Photoshop, GIMP, something to do those kind of things, as well as and I highly recommend this as well, Texture Packer for spreadsheets. Okay, so that's really the requirements that you're going to need from a tool perspective from this course. Seeing as how my monitors just went out, let's take a 10-minute break, right? Or we can get coffee, have some food. Look, it's coming back on. Coffee, have some food, and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll come back with the next piece. All right, so I'm just going to take a break, and I'll stop recording.